Okay, so
Okay.
recording has started. Let's go to our main screen.
Okay.
Let me share my screen to confirm me once you able to see my screen.
Not visible, sir. Okay.
Okay, is it visible now?
Ah, it's visible. Right.
Okay, so we are going to take a look at a new feature of the S3. Okay, as we know, we are going through the S3 resource, which is a storage service of AWS cloud. We are going through that, and till now we have discussed about versioning and about permissions, how to manage permissions to by either through IAM policy or through bucket policy or through ACL access control list. Now the time is to look into how we are going to make the data which we will be storing within the S3 bucket in a highly secure manner, right? That means we are going to encrypt the data, right? You must have heard about this term encryption, decryption, right? What are those all things, why people do that, and how we do that in this S3 case, and what are the options available for encryption here. All this stuff we are going to take a look here. But let me first show you where we can do that or where you can find that option within an S3 bucket. So let's get into any of the bucket. I think, yeah, let's get into this one. Okay. So now here you can see this is the bucket test ACL
Sir,
001.
sir, I have a
Yeah,
sir,
go ahead.
sir,
Go ahead.
sir, I have a doubt actually. Uh, could you please explain the what is encryption and decryption also?
Yeah, I'll start from there. But right now I'm
Okay.
just showing where we can find out that encryption option in the S3. Okay. I will move to the basic part as well.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So if whenever you get into any of the bucket, okay, to find out that option, definitely you will have to get into because that one feature is bucket specific. So once you get into any of the bucket, then you have to move into properties section. Okay. Once you are there, then you need to scroll to the down and you can see there is a encryption tab. Okay. Which where it is saying default encryption. Okay, by default always is encryption enabled over your bucket even though you did not enable it during the creation of bucket. Okay, by default the status is enabled and you can see the encryption type is server side encryption with Amazon S3 managed key. So what are these all things, where these all things came up in my bucket? We will look into everything, but as you said, first take a look what is encryption exactly. Okay, to understand that thing, we need to move into our documents along with we need to think about or discuss about a story. So think about Durga in previous old days during kingdoms, right? Kings used to have war, right? At that moment, those are very critical moment for every empire. So what they used to do, they used to send messages to their neighborhood kingdoms so that they can get help from them there, right? So how they do that? They used to send messages through a messenger who will ride a horse and cover the distance and go to that kingdom and send them a message. And that message, okay, that messenger who what carries the message, that message they always used to encrypt. Encrypt basically means that is a language or that is a specific format which they have formatted their message so that only the other party would be able to understand instead of everyone, because we know that general English anyone can understand. What I am telling you, you can easily understand. But if I start telling something which is not possible by you to understand, right, so what will happen? So that is the case of encryption. Here I have put an example of a very encryption method that is known as Caesar cipher encryption method. Okay, so this is a method kingdoms used to follow in their during war or various times. Okay, various critical situation when they have to convey some message to their other party, they used to send. If you see, I have written a code here. Okay, LORYHLQGLD, right? Does this make any sense to you? Do you think anyone can easily understand what is written here? No, right? Because there is
No.
no general English, nothing is there. So
Yes.
if you look at the converted sense of this, I love India. How? Because Caesar cipher algorithm, or this is a process of shifting your letter or shifting your alphabet to three letters ahead. Let me show you that thing. So I is the ninth letter, plus 3, 12. That's why L. L is the 12 letter. Here is the 12 letter, right? Then LOV, same pattern. 12 plus 3, 15. O, 15 plus 3, 18. R, 22 plus 3, 25. Y, 5 plus 3, 8. H. Okay. See, ORYH, which is LOVE, and same pattern goes with the India. So this is a type of
But why
algorithm.
why
Hmm.
should why should we add as addition as a three only? There is no anything any number are there.
Yeah, any other number is also
Why?
there, but Caesar
Okay.
cipher algorithm stands for 3.
Three.
There are
Okay. Okay.
there are number of algorithm patterns. Okay, we
Mm-hmm.
can say
Okay.
call them as encryption patterns. Right now we are in our S3, we are not following Caesar cipher. It's very advanced, and those are different patterns we are following. So those things we are going to see. So there are numerous patterns available. Now you can ask me, okay, so the messenger took the message from the king, which is encrypted, and how the other party or the other kingdom they able to understand that thing? That's a question, right?
Yes.
So how did this thing happen? Before sending the message, during their good time or during the king's visit to the other neighborhood country, another neighborhood kingdom, they used to hand over them a key, or you can say a translator or a library. Okay, where it is already consisting. If I have written L, that means I. If I have written O, that means L. If I have written R, that means O. So when you send your encrypted message, they will bring that key, which is their library or which is the translating stuff you have already handed over to them. They will bring that to their desk, and they will start converting your encrypted message to a meaningful sense which they can able to understand. That means that is the known as decryption method. Okay, they will start converting your encrypted message into a normal message which they can understand. That is the process of known as decryption process or decrypt process. Okay, you got idea what is encryption, what is decryption?
Yes. Yes.
Encryption basically means it is a process of converting your message or your file or your content into something which no one can easily understand. Okay, then how they can understand? They have to decrypt it, and for that they need a key. If you have provided them that key, then they would be able to decrypt that. Otherwise they won't be able to access your file, or they won't be able to decrypt that thing. Okay, that is an additional layer of security in S3, since it is an storage service and we are storing our data over there. Okay,
Okay.
now let's take a look at the slide. Any doubt, Durga, there over encryption and decryption method?
No. No. Continue.
Okay. Now let's take a look at the slide. What here we are explaining, we are trying to convey data at rest versus data at transit. Okay. Now, first thing, what is data at rest and what is data in transit? So, rest means you have already stored your data somewhere and there is no activity happening over that data. That data is completely in rest. You are not performing any single operation over that data, like modifying, downloading, uploading, re-uploading. Nothing you are doing. That is completely stored in a S3 bucket, you can say. Data in transit means, that means someone is trying to retrieve the data from the S3, or trying to upload the data into the S3. That means transit means when something is moving. Basically, we can say in general English, transit means moving. So data in transit. That means when you are trying to upload the file from your local to the S3, that we can say that duration, right? That fraction of millisecond, that thing we can say that data in transit. If you are trying to download from the bucket to your local, that thing you can say data in transit. If something is stored in S3 bucket and you are showcasing that thing through your website to the end user, right? To general people or to your customer. That means when they are trying to access that file, from where they are fetching it? They are fetching it directly from your backend, which is your S3, right? So that thing again is data in transit. So during that process, how we are making sure our data is secure or data is encrypted, that's what this tab is or this slide is all about. Okay, so first first column says security focus. Okay, what things we need to consider? First, security focus. In data at rest, what we do protects data confidentiality from unauthorized access to S3 storage infrastructure. Okay, why we enable this thing? To protect our data from unauthorized access. In data in transit, what happened? Protects data confidentiality from interception during transfer over the network. Makes sense, right? When data in transit, that means I have already told you from data at rest to other point or from source to destination. When the data transfers, that means from one network to over another network. When our data transfers, at that point, we need to make it secure. That means data in transit. Then what is the encryption method or how did we do that? In data at rest, we use server-side encryption or client-side encryption. There are two options we have available. We have one is server-side encryption, short abbreviation is SSC, or client-side encryption. Okay. But in data in transit, what we do?
Sir,
HTTPS. Yeah.
so is it like type of a BPT peer-to-peer selling? No, this is not so.
Yeah, almost you can say, but this is some sort of data like your file, your video, your image. You are not sharing your screen completely. Okay,
Okay.
almost
Mhm.
the peer-to-peer sharing that is more advanced than this thing. Okay,
Mhm.
but this is an like very small component of that peer-to-peer sharing, you can say. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
so when how did we do that in the data in transit? We did it through HTTPS, okay, secure sockets layer or transport layer security. HTTPS, you know that, right? Whenever you log into any website, it need to be HTTPS. That means hypertext transfer protocol along with security. Okay, so if that website is HTTPS, that means when you are trying to retrieve any data from there or trying to upload any data, that then your data is more secure there. Who controls you the keys, right? I have already told you for encryption and decryption we need keys. Okay, user control over keys depends on encryption type. Okay, in server side encryption and client side encryption, it depends the type of encryption what you are choosing. Why it is saying so? Because if you choose the server side encryption, then the key will be managed by someone third party or vendor who has provided you the key. But if you go with the client side encryption, then you are the solely responsible guy who is going to create the key for yourself. Then it is your responsibility to manage that, right? That's why it is saying depends on encryption type. And here data in transit, who is going to manage? No, no one will manage. Once you have the HTTPS protocol in your website or domain, then you don't have to manage that key. Okay, and how we can make a website HTTPS, that thing I will show you. We have to attach a certificate with our domain, then after that our domain will be HTTPS, means more secure. And to attach a certificate, again, we have to go through another one service in AWS, which is SCM, Amazon Certificate Manager, where we can buy certificate and we can then attach that certificate to our domain. Okay. We will show during our real lab that thing. Encryption applied. Okay, where will be encryption applied? Before data is persisted on S3 disk. Okay, data at rest, where encryption will be applied. That means where I am going to apply the encrypt, or I will convert my human readable data into an encrypted data before the data will be uploaded or getting uploaded into the S3. Before that, I have to apply the encryption. But in transit, what will happen during data transfer between your system and S3 endpoints? If your data you are transferring from S3 endpoint to your system, that means either it may be your phone, it may be your laptop, wherever from you are trying to access that data. Okay, during that transfer process, encryption will be happened. Then it goes with the decryption. If data is encrypted, we definitely need to decrypt. Otherwise, there is no sense of encrypting that thing, because no one would won't be able to understand what is we have in our thing or file. So before data is downloaded from S3, so encryption will be happened before uploading, and decryption will be happened before downloading. And in data in transit, not applicable. Data is already decrypted upon reaching your system. So through the tunnel, through the transferring or through the transit phase, once before reaching to your local system or before reaching to your system from wherever you are trying to access the data will be decrypted during the data in transit method. Okay.
Okay.
Now, okay, it's not clearly visible. I have this slide already in my other method. Let me open that. Just give me a second. I'm opening the slide. Those slides were already uploaded to our group. I think Durga, you joined the group after that. That may be a reason you are not able to, but no worry. I'll share those slides with you individually. Okay. Let me show you this thing. So again, now comes the question. We understood, we got the idea what is encryption and decryption and how these two things work, and where we usually apply encryption and decryption, right? We usually apply them when we are dealing with the data, even though if it is data at rest, or even if it is data in transit. Okay, any confusion, Durga, over there?
No, no.
Okay, so now we are dealing with data at rest. Okay, there is no sense of discussing anything about data in transit because we are not hosting any domain yet. We are only trying to store our data in the S3, which means we are completely dealing with data at rest condition, right? So what are options or additional features we have, or how can we achieve that thing? Now let's take a look about the data at rest option. So we have two kind of encryption method. One is symmetric encryption, another one is asymmetric encryption. What are these two things? These two are basically conceptual things. That's why we need to understand them. Okay, let's take a look first at the diagram of the symmetric encryption. Okay, is it visible to you, Durga? Can you see what happening
Yes,
here?
yes. I.
Here I have a file which is a plain text. That means like hello.txt. I have something message there. I have written anything, or maybe a secure or maybe a normal convey message. Okay, I have that
Mhm.
file, and I am going to upload that file to any of my storage. And here in my case, or in our discussion, what is our storage scenario? That is S3, right? Let's assume this is our S3. And when I will try to upload my file to the S3, okay, first what will happen? The encryption process will happen, right? Because I have already
Yes.
told you, before getting uploaded the file into the S3, the encryption will be happened. Okay, and to encrypt the data, it is going to use a key. Okay, and we have already also discussed who will be the responsible owner of the key. It depends of the on the encryption type. Okay, so that key will be used to encrypt the file. Okay, and then again, when someone else or even though you try to download or try to read the file, then what will happen? Before getting downloaded or before getting uploaded or getting opened in any of the browser, it will first start decrypting. Okay, and for that process, what it will use? It will again use the same key which it has used to encrypt the file. That's why it is known as symmetric encryption. Makes sense? Only because of the same key for the encryption along with the decryption. That's why it is known as symmetric encryption. There is no huge logic behind this. Okay? Because of the same key, it is symmetric encryption. Now, let's see few of the points what we have in under symmetric encryption. There is a single shared key that's used for encryption and decryption. Right? I have already shown you the single key will be used for both processes. Generally faster and more efficient for encrypting large amounts of data like which we store over S3 objects. Okay? Large amount of data, it will be faster and more efficient. Requires a secure way to share the key with anyone who needs to decrypt the data. Right? If you want someone can view or read the file, then you have to share that key with them so that they can use. Right? I told you from the beginning when I was talking about the telling you the story about the kingdom and war, that kind of thing. So at that point, what kings used to do, they first share the key or the library or the translate stuff to the other kingdom so that during the war time or during the like critical situation, they can use that key to decrypt their message. Okay. Then we have few symmetric encryption examples. First example is AES, Advanced Encryption Standard. Okay, just focus on this thing. Symmetric encryption examples. Why I am asking you to guys to focus? Because this is the thing which we will implement in our S3. So that means the encryption process which we follow in S3, that is symmetric encryption. Okay, asymmetric is a different concept, but we need to understand that thing. And there are few other resources where we use asymmetric encryption. I will show you the example as well. So AES, Advanced Encryption Standard. So this is one kind of algorithm, AES 128, 198 and 256. So 256 is the latest one and it is generally considered the most secure. Okay, and it is default encryption standard used by AWS S3. Okay, so AES 256 is the default encryption standard for AWS S3. Besides that AES, we have DES, which is data encryption standard, and triple DES. Okay, but mostly we deal with AES. Okay, if anyone asks you what kind of encryption method we use, simply tell them symmetric encryption, not asymmetric. And in symmetric encryption, we use AES 256. Okay, now hope this thing understood by you. Now let's take a look what is asymmetric encryption. Okay, same process. There is a file which will be uploaded and there is a key will be used to encrypt that file. And once that file is encrypted, that will convert it into a ciphertext model file. And when someone try to view, read or download that file, so the decryption need to be happen, right? But here is the trick. For encryption, there is another key, and for decryption, there is a different key. Then after that, they would be able to decrypt that file to a plain text. That which means there will be two keys always in asymmetric method. Okay, let's take a look at the intro.
Okay.
It involves the use of two mathematically related keys, the public key, the one that's known to everybody, private key, which is only known by you, are required for encrypting, decrypting the message. Did you heard about these two terms, public key and private key? Can you tell me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Can you tell me
Yes, I have heard about.
which
Uh,
resource
pub-
you heard?
Public
It's
public key means we can providing for the access we have to the team.
your voice
If
is Durga
anybody.
very low. I am unable to hear you. Your voice is very
Hello,
yeah,
sir.
it's
Actually,
very high.
public key is it correct?
Yeah, tell me.
Public is means we can providing the everyone or everybody in our teams. But private key we are only using for the private purpose.
Yeah, that is the
When we can okay,
yeah, right.
just
Your short
we are
explanation
just
is
only basically
perfectly
yes.
makes sense as per the key name, but
Mhm.
to be precise, where we exactly use, if you have ever tried or created a EC2 and tried to log into that EC2 using a PEM file, there
Okay,
we use public and private key. That's an ideal example of asymmetric method. Okay.
okay, okay,
Public key will be in the EC2 and you are going to have a private key which is a PEM file at your point. You will use a third party tool like Putty or MobiXterm and you will use that to log into that EC2. So when you pass your key, your private key, that private key is going to communicate with the public key which is within the EC2 so that they can get a understand that yes, this key is like my same key and I have to communicate with, allow this guy to communicate, right? So I'll show you during the EC2 classes, okay? Just keep that thing in mind to recall me during that part, okay? Public key and private
okay.
key. Then the second point is offers stronger security due to separation of keys, right? Why there is high stronger security? Since we have two keys, if someone steals one public key, even though they don't able to encrypt or decrypt your message because they don't have the private key and those two keys are different, that's why it is a stronger security. Even if someone intercepts the encrypted data and the public key, right, that's what I was just talking about, even though they have your file and the encrypted key as well, the public key, they cannot decrypt it without the private key. Why? Because that private key is at your local, you have in your hand, and it's not possible for anyone to like, they need to be very efficient to get both of the details, right? Slower than symmetric encryption. Okay, this is little bit slower. Why? Because there are two keys, right? We are using one for encryption, another one for decryption, so definitely there will be, it is time consuming process, especially for large amounts of data. Okay. Asymmetric encryption examples. There are few asymmetric encryption example. First one is RSA, reversed Samir Adleman. Okay, these are the examples of encryption. You just go through, don't recall them, or you don't need to because it is not that much important from interview point of view. ECC, elliptic curve cryptography, Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Okay, so this is all about symmetric and asymmetric. Got a idea? So the basic difference is that in symmetric we will be using the same key to encrypt and decrypt, and in asymmetric we will be using different two keys. That may be a interview question. If someone asks you, then you can say there is a basic difference, that is the same key and the different two keys. Okay. And in S3 what we choose? We go with the symmetric encryption. Okay. By default encryption process is AES 256. Okay. Understood? Now let me get back to the another slide. Any
So,
confusion, Durga?
what kind of questions
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
interviewer will be asked in the interviewer?
Yeah, interviewer will ask first. Okay, so you are good with the permissions. You manage the permissions, so who can view and who cannot view. Then what about your data? If you have stored your data and someone tries to retrieve that or someone hacks that thing, so what is
Mm.
the security or what is the level of feature you are enabling in S3? So there you can say we would go with the encryption. Then they can
Encryption.
ask you, okay, what encryption you usually create in your organization. Then you can
Mhm.
say, I used to create server-side encryption or client-side encryption, depending upon the data type or the priority of data and as per my senior instructions. Okay, I will discuss with the team for whom I create the bucket. If they ask us to go with the client-side encryption, so then they will ask you, okay, how do they know that there are two options available? We used to explain them. Sir, this is the points we have. Okay, if you want to go with client side or if you want to go with the server side. If they choose
Mhm.
anyone, then after we create them for them. Okay,
Mhm. Got it,
make
sir.
sense? Okay, so this is another slide. As we know, or as you've seen, first thing we understood what is encryption, right? Then what are the old age algorithm or what are the older process we use to encrypt the data like Caesar cipher. Then we took a look at the data at rest and data at transit. Then after we moved from there to symmetric and asymmetric. In symmetric, we found out that there is AES 256 algorithm will be used for the bucket. Along with there are two options available in symmetric, that is server side encryption and client side encryption. Now here is the slide where we are going to discuss about the server side encryption and client side encryption. What is basic difference and what are the things? So basically this is the scenario which exactly we are going to see in our S3 bucket encryption process. Okay. So now let's take a look at the server side encryption. Let me zoom in. Okay. I am going to discuss about the server side encryption which is SSE. Okay. First point is where would be your encryption location. Okay. Encryption decryption happens on the server which is S3 side. Right. So here server side means who? Who is managing your data or where you are storing your data. We are storing our data in S3. Right. So that's why it is saying encryption decryption happens on the server which is S3. Okay. Then key management, who is going to manage the key, right? I have already told you there will be a key for this encryption and decryption process. Who is going to manage that? In SSE, in server side encryption, AWS manages keys. Okay, there are two options available for key management. AWS will manage the key if you go with SSE S3 or SSE KMS, right? Or you provide keys, which is SSEC. If you want higher level of security or you are expecting AWS should not interfere in key management, then you have to create a key by yourself and you need to provide that key to that AWS only for use cases. They are not responsible for management. Okay, here comes question, what does mean by management? Management means simply if you want some modification in your key, if you want to upgrade your key, if you want to update your key, right? Those all stuff need to be managed by you at your own self. Okay. AWS is not going to involve in any of the process. Once you modify your key, then you again have to hand over to the AWS. Then you can ask me why I have to do it, sir. If even if AWS manages the keys and those things are available by AWS. Why? Because if it is highly sensitive application and you want the things to be more secure, then definitely you need to have the ownership of the key so that you are making sure that your data or your key which will be used to encrypt or decrypt the data is completely under your control. Okay. Third point is ease of use, right? Ease of use means easier to set up and manage, especially with SSE S3 and SSE KMS. So, what basically it is saying, the AWS manages keys. which are SICS3 and SICKMS, are very much easier to manage and set up. You just have to go there and create those things for your use cases. Okay. Performance may have a slight performance overhead due to encryption decryption on the server. You may experience a slight latency. Okay. Why? Because encryption decryption, both of the things happening on the server end. From security point of view, provides encryption at rest, protecting data stored in S3. Why we basically enable encryption at rest? To provide or protecting our data in S3. Then comes the compliance. Can help meet compliance requirement, especially with SSC KMS. I have already told you organizations used to have audit and compliance process, right? Because they want to make sure that the data is secure and under their control. So if you are using SSC KMS, which is another encryption process in the AWS S3, that can help you to meet your compliance. Okay. Seventh point is use case examples, real kind examples. Let's take a look. Generally, data protection. Generally, when we opt for the data protection, we enable encryption. Compliance requirement, right? Already discussed in the point number 6. For compliance requirement for auditing to pass the every test, we encrypt the data. Ease of use, right? For handy to use, we basically go with the encryption, which is server side encryption. Now comes the question, which is what is the client side encryption? Okay, now let's get into the client side encryption. What is the encryption location? If you compare na, both of the points are the same, right? Encryption location, key management, ease of use, so that it is easier for you to compare between both of them. Okay. In client-side encryption, encryption location or encryption or decryption happens on the client side before the data is uploaded to the S3. Okay, makes sense. Who is here client now? That means who is trying to upload the data. Okay, before getting uploaded to the S3, both of the process will be happen. Who will be managing the key here? You are solely responsible for generating, managing, and securing the encryption keys. That means for creating, okay, uploading, updating, upgrading the key, and making the key securely available. That everything is owned or responsible by your own organization.
Yeah.
Then comes the third question, ease of use. More complex. Why? Because this key is created by you to make your data secure, which is highly sensitive. That's why it is more complex to implement and requires additional client-side libraries or tools. That means since you are trying to create for yourself, then definitely you need everything. Whatever code need to be create that thing, you are going to write everything from scratch, right? But in server side, they have already created it for you and it is available. You are going to only rent it or you are going to only purchase and use it for yourself. Okay, that's why here it is more complex. And what are the tools or few examples or libraries have given here? There are like AWS Encryption SDK, OpenSSL, GADU or it's short GPG, we say. Performance-wise, encryption decryption can impact client-side performance, especially for large objects. Okay, encryption decryption can impact client-side performance, especially for large objects. Security offers stronger security as data is encrypted both in transit and rest. Compliance offers greater flexibility for meeting specific compliance requirements. Use case examples, maximum security control. Why? Because you are completely owning the key. It is under your control. That's why it is maximum security and control. Custom encryption needs. If you want to customize your key, you have that ownership. Specific regulatory requirements. If there is some specific type of data and a regulatory requirement rules need to be justified, then you can go with this option, symmetric, sorry, this server side encryption. Okay, any confusion till now, Durga? If you have, you can ask me.
Sir, no, actually, I have a doubt.
Go ahead.
As a DevOps engineer, we can managing all the security keys and all of the things, or is there any DevSecOps teams are there to managing the security purpose of?
See, it completely depends upon your organization size and the number of AWS accounts you are managing there. If it is a large organization, DevSecOps
Mhm.
is actually not any different team. They are
Okay.
part of your team.
Mhm.
Okay. But
Got it.
when they work on the security perspective, na, then you are going to call them DevSecOps people. Right.
Okay.
Same goes with SRE as well. There is
Mhm.
no, to be honest, there you can't even find anything SRE specific people. They all of them are DevOps or cloud people. Okay, but
Mhm.
when they work on some specific task, then they separate or then we can consider them as SRE or DevSecOps. Okay, and
Okay.
usually in every organization or in every project, you DevOps size is very low. Usually people used to have two to three people or four people max. Okay, out of four
Okay.
people, one is going to or two may use, or maybe four of them you will be first creating the infrastructure. Once the infrastructure exists, then after that two will be managing or monitoring the existing infrastructure, and two will focusing on developing the infrastructure. Then you can say the two is basically monitoring or managing those people are SRE, and those two who have created they are DevOps, or out of that one is focusing on the security perspective, how they can make it more secure, or what are the things they can implement to the existing thing more secure, then that guy is considered as DevSecOps people.
Okay. That's depends upon the organization. What
Right, right,
we
right, right.
providing.
That's completely upon their decision. But during the hiring process, no one is going to ask you, are you a DevSecOps profile? Are you a SRE?
No, no, no.
No
Okay.
one will like ask you like that. Whatever role you have performed previously, you can say, I have performed these kind of tasks, and that is your requirement, which I believe it is a good match for you, so that I can try that.
Okay.
Okay. For
Yes.
today, that's all. Let me stop the recording. Okay. Let me
Okay.
first stop the recording.
Okay.